Good morning. What is happening, my fellow woodworkers? Today, we're going to build a majorly, super, ultra, mega, super monstrously easy cutting board. So I had a friend who was getting married. She said, "Can you make me a walnut cutting board?" I said, "I think I can do that." So I got me some walnut wood. And I told her it was going to be super cheap. You're going to pay for mostly just the material plus a little bit. She said, "Okay." So here I am making this super simple cutting board. And it just so happens that the supplier I have out here in East Texas has really good blades on their saws, and the gap was awesome. And so I found the right match that I liked, where the grain just looked good. I mean, just look at that grain. Just phenomenal. So this is just a face grain cutting board. Super simple. Odds are the people that use this cutting board won't actually use it because it's a wedding gift. You know, when you get a cutting board for a wedding, do you actually use it to cut on? I didn't get one for my wedding, and so I don't know. I would think that I would cut on it because it's a cutting board. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you just have a pretty little engraved cutting board sitting on your shelf because your wife wanted it for your wedding, and now you never get to even use it for the steaks that you make. Or she doesn't use it for the veggies that she makes you eat, and she cuts it on them. Maybe that's just me. But I do want to make sure that this is a flat glue up. I do not have a planer, and so I want to make sure that these stay flat. So before getting it super tight, I put a little caul on there, and there is some tape so that way that cedar caul does not stick to the walnut, because that would be awful. And really wanted this to be good, and so I made sure we had enough clamps. How many clamps do you have? Let me know. And while it was drying, I wanted to try to get some of this squeeze out, and that's what all the YouTubers do, right? They get the squeeze out. But I will say, when you don't have a planer or a drum sander or anything like that, it is so much easier to sand it down if you get these off while they're a little soft. But with all the clamps that I got, that was a little bit complicated. I let that glue up dry overnight, and I got everything off to begin the sanding process. And boy, is that thing flat. One of the great things about my workbench is that I put some shellac on it, and look at that. It just pops right up. A lot of people are using this veneer rubbish on theirs, and it costs a fortune. Shellac costs much less and does just as well. So I would encourage you, get you some shellac. Of course, doing the pencil method here, where you write all of the fun things on there. At 120 is where I started it, because these boards were really soft initially. I say soft, it's walnut. It's a hardwood. It's not a soft wood. How can they be soft? These woods were ideal. I didn't have to go down to 80 grit to get all that roughness off. They were smooth enough that I could start at 120, do that a couple of times. And here you can really see the two boards coming together. But that seam is awesome. No gaps. I can't do that. Not with the stuff I have. I mean, if you weren't really looking for the gap, you could not find it. I mean, my gosh. Got my cheap crosscut sled out that is not square, but I act like it is because I want to be cool. So I make all 4 sides not square to make sure that they're all at least clean cut. And I got those scraps. I'm going to save them for a project I'll never do. But of course, you got to save your scraps, right? Who's with me? Drop a like on this video if you too save scraps for everything. What's crazy is this board is precisely not square, but square with that corner trick. So doesn't always work, but generally does. So threw some 320 on there now once I got it all prettied up. Make sure to get those edges. I think that's an underrated spot to sand, but make sure you get the edges. I actually just rounded over the edges with my sander and then came back with my round over. This is a 1/4 round over, and for cutting boards and charcuterie boards, it's okay. I think I prefer a 1/16 inch round over if you don't want to really see the round over, but this 1/4 inch, I'm sorry, 1/8 round over is more so what I prefer. I wonder, do they make a 1/16 round over? I need to get me one. If you could subscribe so I can get some more money to buy me more bits, that would be wonderful. Make sure to hand sand those edges. I am not to that level where I have one of those fancy foam sanding pads. I need to get one, but I just hand sand the edges, knock down all of that stuff, and then hit the grain pop. I know there's mixed feelings and mixed reviews regarding the grain pop, but I have physically felt a difference if I grain pop versus when I don't grain pop, and so I recommend it. I think it is really good. Letting it dry in between wetting and then coming back and sanding it at least one more time, preferably more than once. I like to do it right whenever I go to a new grit as well. So I'll sand with 120 dry, and then I'll grain pop, sand with 120, and then sand with 320, and then grain pop, water pop, whatever you want to call it, and then sand with 320 again to get my very, very smooth, like a baby's butt smooth. You know what I'm saying? All you dads out there do. I know you do. You gotta wipe that nasty tushy whenever it poops everywhere. Sorry, new dad in the building. That's the worst part about being a parent, is whenever they start having smelly poops, or at least of a baby. So anyway, here I am on my laser. It's just a cheap laser, and I constantly have to map it out, check and make sure I'm doing it right. And here's a quick example of what it looks like whenever it's at work. It's really boring now that I think about it, because it's literally just going back and forth and yeah, all the fun stuff. So I get that thing engraved and get it ready for final finish. This is the actual speed that the laser goes at, so it's quite slow, but I want you to see the real-time example of what it's like to laser engrave something, and you got to watch it the whole time. And now I know the part that you have been waiting for your entire life. That's nice. That's real nice. Now this is just mineral oil. I highly recommend using also a beeswax mineral oil in addition to the mineral oil. I put it on preemptively. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It looks really cool on a video, but ultimately the simple act of wax and oil combination, I do a 4-to-1 wax to oil to wax, 4 oil to 1 wax, beeswax specifically finish, and that's how I completely finish these boards. And all you got to do after you let this dry is apply that and then let it sit and wipe down the rest. So I'm gonna shut up and hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.